Your DNA code, and when you have a synthricate, it works better the more and more conform it is to its environment. And if you can get an environment so conformed where they only believe one thing, what they're told, well then they don't have to use their brain anymore. And so this is what like the leaders of the Bill Gates, the Jeffrey Epstein, and then Henry Kissinger, Klaus Schwab, they all look at the people who are following the narrative that the gaslight's providing, and then they say, well, they're trying to put a bridge over their head and say, look at all these trolls. And so instead of just controlling each and every person, or if you have a whole group of these trolls, they hide under the bridge, you collapse the bridge on top of them, and when they don't know what to do, they start looking around and asking their leaders. Their Tim Cook running Apple out of China for tax exemption with the suicide nets and the sweatshops. He pressures the Chinese to pay their workers less and less for their components. And why this is so troubling is that he's got his snake voice, because Tim Cook's gay, so it's okay for him to do all of this. It's unique, and the more that you keep making it less and less so, you start turning it with like your face gray, and you have less and less features about you. Like when you drink the Kool-Aid, but this Kool-Aid, it is a simpleton serum where it makes you less and less what you are and more what. But those are ran by like foundations of the Bill and Melinda Gates, part of the Davos groups, Henry Kissinger, a long line of George Soros, people who meet together and talk about the economy of the world and what they view for the future of the population. And this is a great deal of done with through China, where they want everyone to have exactly like how China functions, where any problems, the government swoops in and eliminates it. Like if you're a scientist who speaks out and is blowing a whistle, well, they end up not being able to be alive. Use the internet. I wasn't allowed to use the internet the other day. I couldn't find a hotspot, and my roaming, it wasn't even allowed to work. The stealth editing of the AI reading the little keywords is also bottlenecking, as it seemed almost impossible. I think the sensors are starting to get crafty. That's how an AI performs, and you can override the sensors if you come up with your own linguistics. I'm using the words bugs and DINA code for DNA code, and a bug is, well, you can catch a bug, and you know what that. To collapse an environment is just hit it with a bug, and anyone who questions where the bug came from, you hit them with flags and hit them with some stealth editing algorithm. All of a sudden, their voice box isn't heard because the thing that they use to project out their message shadow banned. So the Bill Gates Foundation, the Clinton Foundation, these are what, like Jeffrey Epstein, guys like him. If you don't know what he did, he was in charge of the eugenics program, that all the leaders of the world would go to his island and look at these different prototypes of clones, and then traffic humans, specifically underage children. When they were doing this, Bill Gates, he got like a whole bunch of these clone horses on his private land, where he bought like a public park. Well, yeah, he bought the public park and made it his private park in Seattle. Jeffrey Epstein was, when the cameras turned off into his jail cell, and then he ended up not being alive anymore. That's kind of like how China handles stuff. So it's being more invoked even through like bigger leaders up in the chain ranking, like he was. Well, once again, it comes down to bending the will and breaking the mind. If you do these two things, you can treat the macro level, like, you know, everywhere that people see normally, and treat it like the micro level, those molecules I was explaining earlier, where if you're designed to think like 6 feet and to fall in line, and whenever you see a mask to be scared, these are actually things that, like, internally with your brain being programmed, are going to be in accordance of getting like in line with rank and file. And when that's done, it's a lot easier to filter out and polarize in messages, such as gaslights being spun. And anyone who goes over there is tax exempt, meaning your Google, your Apple, your Nike, they all run their sweatshops out from China and don't pay taxes when they ship it over here, allowing them to put up sensors that can't be overridden, and then shut down elections at 2 a.m. Because they get too tired to keep counting. The people getting hit with gaslight, they don't know when the media is spinning something. The media is told they're not allowed to cover any of the congressional hearings designed where Fauci is asked what about this gain of function. Well, because the USA is ran by these banks that are in a global cabal in order to make people have their hands tied. The rare earth minerals being dug just from China, where they're allowed to do that and have a monopoly on it with one-sided trade deals. And then the USA is not allowed to dig the rare earth minerals anymore. All the pipelines are shut down, but China is allowed to do all that and more as the jobs shift over there. How's the weather up there? If there's like a midget and a really tall person, and then what they get, the tall person, the midget asks, how's the weather up there? And when you don't know what you're aiming for, it's gonna get used as against you, being you're the issue for the bypass. You know, like in the olden days, they would give out braces in the teeth, and that would be what the braces in the teeth would be used to overcompensate other things. But then nowadays they have like these clear mouth guards, and those are the new braces, where this is getting more towards silicone, when in the future they're gonna say, well, we'll just print you out a whole new mouth. And so then they'll go and they'll 3D print a new mouth, and this is in the way of the dentures. Essentially what old people have, except they would be able to unclick and rehook an entire mouth. And you might not know that's what you're signing up for, and then they'll put you out and that's what it'll actually be, but it'll never be the same, because your DNA genetic code, your DINA code, is not within the makeup of the 3D plastic silicone. And the plastic mouth guard is of course called Invisalign. And I don't like talking about the blood moving too much, but I understand like the heart has like 90% of the reasons of your health. So it's hard not to speak on the blood a lot. So to be like more PG, you could relate just the cow's stomach and milk, and that is actually a lot more better because the blood reading is just no different than the juice in the cow's stomach turning into milk, in the difference where it is oil to water, where it pushes out or lets up and it bottlenecks in order to not give out. And with basing it off cognition, if you're running tests off that, all it is really mood rings when they have the different temperature and it's reading your finger and changing colors. That's the Centrikit, where the body is changing the blood level, and this is having the difference of temperature, allowing for it to move quicker or not.